And joining us now from our Washington bureau is a man who knows the Middle East and the military situation there very well, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, retired Air Force General Richard Meyers. Good morning, General.
Hey, good morning, Anthony and Rebecca.
General, as you just heard Alan Pizzi say, if anything, things there seem to be escalating. It's so far we've been limited to airstrikes, but clearly the Israelis are preparing for a ground war. General, what are the implications if it reaches that?
Well, I think we're at a stage with what's going on right now between Israel and Gaza that where diplomacy could get behind. And if diplomacy gets behind, then I think escalation is the natural outcome. So it's good to hear that the president's involved. It's good to hear that Egypt wants to play the role of mediator here. But we'll see how that plays out over the days, because it's a lot hotter, as our correspondent said, there in Gaza. It's a lot hotter when you're on the ground there.
And a lot more technologically sophisticated at this point than the last time we saw things escalating. Hamas has rockets that are now landing right outside of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. What would Israel have to do to stop those rockets? And does that mean an escalation to a ground offensive?
I think the weapons, the technology, as you mentioned, Rebecca, I think that does change the equation to a great extent. So the things that Israel's going to have to do will probably have to be a little more invasive. And I don't mean ground invasion, but a little bit more invasive as they go after this kind of capability. It may mean that they have to go in on the ground, but that remains to be seen. This really does change the equation when rockets can come close to Tel Aviv and Jerusalem.
General, how much more prepared, how much more powerful is Hamas than they were 4 years ago when we went through this?
Well, they seem to have really rearmed well. You know, they were beat down pretty bad in 2009, but because of what's happened in Libya and some of the arms they had that have migrated now to Gaza from Iran, they seem to be much better prepared. And I think their access through the Sinai and so forth has increased since the Egyptians have elected a new president. I think there's not as much security there as there once was.
And how does that changing geopolitical backdrop, the neighboring countries, you mentioned Egypt, change things for Israel this go round? Might these other countries surrounding Israel join in the offensive?
Well, so far, Egypt has said it's going to support the peace treaty that it has with Israel. The same for Jordan, of course. But you have to worry about the underlying stability and the mood of the people in both of those countries, Jordan being more than 50% Palestinian. And, of course, you got Syria and Lebanon on the northern and on the eastern borders that are in turmoil right now, not to mention the rest of the Middle East all the way up to Bahrain. This is probably one of the most dangerous times we've ever faced in the Middle East.
All right, General Richard Meyers, a very delicate situation. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.